Awesome.
Yeah, you just got to hit record whenever you want, so no one knows. But you know now though, because doesn't it say recording on your screen?
It does.
Ah,
So it's
crap.
not really secret
Crap.
to me,
It's not a secret. I
but that's
can't.
all right.
I can't get you in trouble without you knowing.
Wow. I mean, that's not to say that like we won't go down that road at some point here, but
Yeah, and I don't edit these, so you got to be careful what you say.
that's true. All right.
My million listeners are going to hear this.
One
So
take.
watch what you say, because I will not edit this.
This is old school.
What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just it's been a crazy week. Lot going on lately. I see like everything's blowing up with the shirts for the scene, which is amazing. I've got stuff blowing up with the Sleeplore thing this week. So it's kind of been crazy, actually.
I was going to say, you've had a pretty busy week. You released the first song under Sleeplore last Friday, correct?
Yeah, last Friday.
And I've told you this before. I'm not going to tell you again just because you're staring at me. But yeah, I mean, I am completely blown away by the track called "Let Go," which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today. It was about that, and it was funny because I was like, I need a good guest for my second episode. I thought about you immediately because the reason I'm doing this is so I can still talk to musicians and they could use this as a platform to talk about what they've got going on, new projects, yada, yada, yada. But I'm like, I just talked to Clyde like last week, it felt like. So I went back in time, traveled back in time, and it was like 7 or 8 months ago that we first recorded our first podcast together.
Yeah. I remember that because that was early on in the the whole quarantine COVID thing and everything, and we connected. And I remember it was first growing the beard then, and it was a different time. It feels like an eternity ago now to think about that, but also thinking about the conversation was like, it seems so fresh.
Yeah, it feels like it was yesterday. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's cool too because like I feel like that was the first time I ever like really talked to you, and I don't know if it was just that conversation or the way we've kept in touch throughout the past 8 months, but I feel like I know you even more now.
Yeah.
I'm proud to call you a friend. You were very supportive of this endeavor that I'm doing right now. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening to me and giving me some advice here and there.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what we've talked about. It's like it's that sense of community. People show up for each other. You've supported this scene for a long time. You've supported stuff that I've been involved with, and you do it in a way that I don't know. It's like it doesn't feel like some people do stuff in a way that feels kind of competitive or exclusive or like doesn't feel like it's super welcoming. But you do it in a way that's totally different, and I can appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, people ask me like, how would this be different from other podcasts in the world or just in the market in general? And I said, honestly, I don't know the answer to that question because I don't know what's going to set me apart from other people, because I feel like a lot of people are doing the same thing as far as like, I want to interview, cool people in the scene or, business owners and things like that. And I said, what I do know is that my delivery and the content and what we talk about in general is going to be very genuine.
Yeah.
And I think that comes off in my delivery. At least I hope so, because that's what it is. I mean, obviously, I'm not a trained professional radio host or a podcast host or whatever you want to call it. I have zero background other than, being on the radio for that hour each week for a little over 3 years. But
Yeah.
I just kind of went with it. I'm not professionally trained by any means. So it's.
But I think that's part of the appeal, though.
I hope
People
so.
are interested in someone who's genuine. Guests that are genuine, a host that's genuine, and they want to hear like the real life. They want to hear the real stuff. They don't want to hear, if I'm coming on as your guest, they don't want to hear me like with a prepared speech or something like that, or prepared remarks. Like nobody cares about that.
Right.
People just want to hear about what's real.
And that's what I wanted to do too. I didn't want to have like this, outlined, sheet to go through. Okay, Clyde, what's your name? Where are you from? What are you doing today? Like, I just wanted to kind of like, obviously, I want to talk to you about Sleeplore.
Yep.
And then we can talk about whatever else we want to talk about. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah.
We just got some bad news today with coronavirus. we're taking a step backwards as far as what we can and can't do here in the wonderful state of Pennsylvania. It's unfortunate because it's really affecting the bars and restaurants.
It is,
which I think is like really the killer when what the announcement was today from Wolf.
Yeah,
but it's tough. But
it is tough.
Let's talk about some positive things. Real quick, you mentioned Shirts for the Scene. You mentioned people, being very supportive in this area, and I want to quickly thank anyone who has visited that page. It's Shirts for the Scene. You can get to that by going to my website, thepopkoproject.com. And what Shirts for the Scene is basically a fundraiser. And it's a store online. And it's full of local musicians from here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. And you can support these artists who have been crushed financially from the pandemic because they haven't been able to play shows. And without playing shows, they have not been able to sell merch unless they do it themselves online, which I think is a different set of struggles or hurdles to get over. But so I thought this would be a great way to give awareness to the fact that artists have suffered this year. And then if you purchase a T-shirt from said artist, the proceeds from that shirt go right to the artist. So Clyde, you have a shirt for the Republic Audio Studio, which is your recording studio in Clark Summit, as well as your new project, Sleeplore. So if I were to go buy both of those shirts on that store, the proceeds from those shirts would go back to you. So I think we're at like $2,700 in just over a week. So I think that's pretty good. I hope it's good. I hope I can raise a lot of money for the local arts here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. A lot of cool designs from the bands here. I was really surprised by a lot of those. Not surprised, that's the wrong word to use, but
it's nice to see them all together.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a whole list of just, and you don't even think there's that many bands. And I know I don't have all of them. So if you're listening to this and you want to be part of this project and part of the Shirts of the Scene, please email me a vector file of your logo to info@thepopkoproject.com. I'm working with a company called Axelrad, who I stole the idea from because they did the similar thing back in May, June, July-ish. I forget what months it was. They started it. They did the same thing, but for local businesses. So I just stole the idea from them. I asked them permission first, stole the idea from them, and they were on board 100% without even question. And they're doing this for us now for the local arts. So
amazing.
If I don't have they're great. I mean, I send them new logos. It's up the same day. They've been a blessing to partner with. More for them, I wouldn't be doing this because I don't have the ability to do that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't know the guys down there, but I understand they're guys from the scene and everything too. And I mean, they're so they get it. They want to help support. And it's all about that. It goes back to that community.
Yeah. So if I don't have your logo and you want to be part of it, please email that to me. Again, info@thepopkoproject.com. I will get it to them and I will get it to the store as soon as possible. And we will do our best to raise money for everyone involved. Awesome. So that's good stuff. But what's been really cool last Friday, like I said earlier, Clyde put out a project called Sleeplore. And he released his first single under that name called Let Go. I have compared it to early Jimmy Eat World. I've compared it to Death Cab for Cutie. There's another band I still cannot figure out what band it is. It's killing me, dude. There's two things. Like I find myself singing the song often, A, because it's good, and B, because I'm still trying to figure out who the hell I can compare it to. And I hate comparing bands to other bands because I don't want to, like, the worst thing you can do is say, oh, you sound like Blue October. And you're like, oh, fuck. I hate that goddamn
hate those guys. Right. That'd be the worst.
I mean, I think when you compare it to a band like, who has national success, that's a good thing to be compared to. But I'm still trying to figure it out, man.
Well, if you figure it out, if it hits you, even if it's a year down the road, whatever, I'd love to know.
It will hit me eventually.
It's so hard.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to hear the song and the artist that it reminds me of, right? I'll be like, this sounds familiar to something I've heard before. and then I'll forget that.
Right. What that other reference is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what's gonna happen.
Old age, man, but it's so hard, like writing music. And I this, like I've been involved in music for a long time, but writing music, or even producing music, you get so close to it, it's really, really hard to, when you get close to it, to say, oh well, it sounds kind of like this, or it's a little bit of this with kind of like this type of vocal, or whatever the case is. When it's your own stuff, it's nearly impossible.
Sure.
And I've shared it, now I've shared it with a lot of people, but even beforehand I shared it with a bunch of people, just kind of looking for a little bit of input, because I want to make sure that I have my sort of expectations set too. Like, it might sound like this when somebody's asking me, and I've shared some of my thoughts, and most people are would kind of validate whatever I was telling them. But it's interesting, some of the other references that come back, and it's I've had a couple people mentioned that it sounds kind of like earlier Midwestern emo kind of stuff, which I never really listened to be honest.
I didn't know
So
that was a thing.
Yeah, I guess it is. It's a thing, but it's not my thing.
Let me write this down so I can kind of look this up.
Midwest emo, yeah. So
Midwest emo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I think maybe Death Cab would fall into that, possibly. I don't know.
Sure.
Like a subset of that. I don't really know. But every time I heard emo, to be honest, it was never really like my thing primarily. A couple people said from a vibe standpoint, more like a Pink Floyd-y type vibe, as far as like the cadence of it and everything, and the atmosphere and stuff like that. But it's one person that I know out in LA referenced Pinback, which was really cool, because Pinback is a really neat band, and there's one song they have called Loro, Loro, that I actually had on my list of references before I was putting this out, trying to figure out like what has a similar, even just like the guitar that goes through it. It's like a recurring theme, even something like that. Like if I could just settle on one thing. And that was one of the tracks that I picked up on.
Yeah. Well, and that's the part that has me stumped, because it is the guitar. And that's the part that like reminds me of something else, and I can't think of it.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It doesn't sound like anything. That's the reality, that's why it's so hard.
Yeah.
To different people, it sounds different. I had a couple people that said it doesn't sound anything like those references you gave. You're like way off base. But then the next person listens to it, is like, oh, I'm kind of picking up some of these vibes. And I'm like, well, what about this guy? So
yeah. So talk a little bit about the name of the project, when it all kind of started. I mean, I'm assuming it kind of happened during the pandemic, and then obviously the new song, and then what your plans are.
So the name Sleeplore, it really has very little meaning other than the fact that for years I've been kind of writing music, doing different things with it. I've done some like music for licensing, or would loan parts of songs to this or that. But I have a whole bunch of stuff that has always been sort of like off to the side, like, oh, that's the Clyde sounding stuff, versus some of the other stuff that I might do other things with. And some of this music over the years, I've been like, all right, I really do want to release this. Like, it's not that I don't want to release it. I'm not putting it away to the side because I don't care about it, or it's not good, or anything like that. I haven't had time for the most part. And then also, which these are all excuses really, but I haven't had time. And
they're excuses, but it's also reality. Let's face it.
It is.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's a mix of everything. But then the real excuse has been like the last year or so being hung up on a name. And it's kind of stupid, because like I didn't want to just put it out as my name, because it doesn't really roll off the tongue necessarily, Right. And I always kind of want it to be like one word. I really like band names or artist names that are just like one word, and so I've for a long time I've created like a list of just words that I like. I would listen through like a playlist from an artist that I like a great songwriter like Tom Waits. I would go through a list of his songs, listen to the songs, look at lyrics, pull out words that I like, add them to this list, and that would start to accumulate over time. And I'd be like, every once in a while I go back to and be like, well, would one of these work for a project name? And there's some really cool names in there, but I was never really thrilled. So a couple months ago, during the pandemic, I was like, all right, well, I have this list now of songs that's growing that I really want to put out. And I also have this giant list of names. So one day I just basically said, screw it. Let me look at the list. The first thing that jumps out at me, that's like a single word that's kind of cool, let's go with that. and I was going through. There were a couple other names that I went through prior to this, but this one came through and it stood out. And I looked online just to see, like, does this have a meaning? Does it mean anything? And it really doesn't. It doesn't have any real meaning. The cool thing is, I think when you read or when you hear Sleeplore, it kind of feels like it means something, or
Mm-hmm.
feels like it might have a meaning, but it really doesn't, at least not that I'm aware of. I hope it doesn't have some meaning, that I'm not aware of, but I looked, I couldn't find anything. So,
Something negative like that. There's a one business in Scranton that I think it's a Mexican place,
oh
and
yeah, it's a swear word or something like
yeah,
that.
I don't know what it means in English or whatever,
Yeah.
or what it means in Spanish, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess it's not good.
No, no. And I think they were there for a couple of years or something. And all of a
I have no
sudden
idea. All of a
somebody
sudden, yeah,
figured out. That's
yeah.
kind of funny.
City's like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so Sleeplore, it doesn't mean anything, not yet.
Apparently it doesn't mean anything, but like I said, it kind of feels like it means something. So that's kind of cool. To me, it could mean a couple things. It could mean like, I don't know. I feel like I've had a lot of lack of sleep, so it could mean like sleep lore, like there's this mythical thing called sleep that I have not experienced in some time. Or it could mean like, like a dreamy state, or almost kind of like, there's this, it's called hypnagogia, I believe is how you say it, but it's kind of like the state between when you first wake up. It's the state between sleep and awake. So it's like that really foggy when you first wake up in the morning, that state. And I don't know, I love that time, whether it's like waking up in the morning and you're like not quite with it yet, but you have all these thoughts, all these creative thoughts that just run. I love that. So it could mean something like that, it could mean a lot of things,
Yeah, I mean, to me, and I think this might be because of the art that you've released for the project. It's kind of it's kind of undefined, and I
Yeah.
think the artwork that you kind of released with it is also kind of leading towards that, like, mysterious kind of appearance, I guess you could say. I don't even know, but the
Yeah.
artwork is phenomenal.
Oh,
I know
thanks.
we talked about where you got some of it from, but um, the photos you had done of yourself by Keith Perks were also fantastic. Keith is a
Yeah.
great photographer here in Northeastern Pennsylvania. He actually did the logo for my project, and I'm thrilled with how that came out. Um, so
Did a
going
good
back to what I
job.
said before, it's very cool to have creative people here in this area to help out with things.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great creative people here. Definitely shout out to Keith. He did an awesome job in the photos. I shared with him a document of like some reference photos that I really liked. And as soon as I sent them over, he's like, "Oh yeah, I love that photographer." And like we just started talking about all this stuff, ideas, and then we're trying to pin down a date. And that was one of the later things that was kind of like, in my mind holding me back from like the release of the first song or whatever. I was like, I need photos. I need good photos. I don't want to put anything out there without having sort of an image, And so we pinned down a date, and it was like it was almost kind of like last minute, And we ended up going to a friend of mine, Derek, his church in Ransom, PA, and it's like this old Lutheran church that he bought 5-10 years ago. I don't even know how long ago it was, but really cool place that I've always loved. So we ended up going there for the photos and just did them all there, and it's turned out great. But Keith did a great job for sure.
Yeah, and there are also, there's like kind of shadowy, so it's kind of, again, mysterious imagery, and yeah.
Yeah. It goes with the vibe. It
Hmm.
definitely for the first 3 or 4 songs, it goes with the vibe of the stuff. So the first track, Let Go, that came out last Friday is definitely, pretty much everybody that's heard it and, gave me thoughts at this point has basically said like it's a vibe track, and it just kind of, you listen to it, it kind of puts you in this mood, puts you in the state. It's a very simple song, but it's texturally, sort of rich. There's different things going on. And there's like a pretty simple message to it as well, like lyrically. And I'm not necessarily like I don't know, like a crafty lyricist or anything like that. Like I don't consider myself a brilliant songwriter or anything. I've got like this one's super easy. So any like real songwriters that are listening to this are going to be like, that song, he calls that a song, but
Yeah.
it's a vibe track. But the the sort of the feel and the theme of it goes with the next few tracks that I plan on putting out. And the next one, which is it's done right now, it's called Weighted. And I keep going back and forth on the mix on it a little bit because this one started as a pretty simple song too. I added a bridge to it at some point, but then over the last couple, I don't know, maybe probably the last 2 months, I've added in some additional instrumentation, and it's just grown into this like epic monster of a song. And it's like, there's a lot going on with it. So from a mix standpoint, I'm trying to make sure all of that sort of comes through, but also doesn't sort of overshadow the original song itself, at the foundation of it. So should be a really interesting one, you know?
So do you plan on releasing the just like singles, one after the next, and then
Yeah.
release a full length or an EP or whatever you want to call it, or what's the plan?
My thought is right now I've probably got 3 or 4 that I'm going to do as singles. They could be an EP. I could do maybe, 2 or 3 and then an EP, something like that. But my thought is continue to put singles out. I've got the material to be able to just kind of continuously put stuff out every, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. Keep it kind of flowing out there, keep people engaged. But I also have sort of other silos of songs that kind of have a different sound to them. So there's one batch of songs that I have that's a little bit more, alternative, a little bit more rockin', and I'm really excited about it actually. And so that one's kind of like eating at me from behind right now, like these couple of songs that I have. And the challenge with those ones is I really want to do some proper recording of like the drums and things like that. And I want to have people in the studio doing that. And it's just right now with everything going on with the, COVID and everything, that's been really hard, but I'm really excited about those ones. So that one might end up being batched more as like an EP because it's going to be a different sound than these singles. And it's, kind of like a whole new image maybe,
Right.
but we'll see.
And I'm not trying to plan out your future for you, but I mean, is this like a project that you want to kind of, continue with long term, or is this like a one off and you're like, okay, I did that, I'm happy with it, on to the next, or is there a plan?
Yeah. I mean, I hope to honestly make and put out music the rest of my life. So whether Sleeplore, the name and it, and what it is always going to be that sort of, face to it. I'm not totally sure, but, I wouldn't. So I think the Sleeplore thing is going to be around for a while, but I also wouldn't close off any doors to other types of names or projects, things like that could have sort of a similar approach,
Gotcha.
So.
And you said you were, wanting to bring people in. How much of it can you do on your own? I mean, I
mean,
feel like
I could pretty much do all of it on my own. But when you bring other people in and you collaborate with people, it just adds something. It's like the difference. It's like, a lot of the bands that I work with, a lot of the people that, whether they're a solo artist or they're currently in a band at that time, whatever the case is. And, we sort of talk about the difference between, one person writing all the parts for the song and the way that might sound. And it's, to be like very precise. It's everything that they had in mind versus if you show up with a band or a group of people and you bring that same song, it's going to be different, maybe better, maybe worse. Who's to say, but
yeah.
It's going to be different. And that's the beauty of having different people playing. That's the beauty of having a band is, it's always going to be a little bit different. There's always going to be some subtle variation and it just adds a different element. And I think for, I know enough, I guess, about music at this point to kind of say with like that style of music, bringing in other people and sort of adding those variables to it. It adds a little excitement, adds some dynamics, and it's just fun to have other people to play with.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I was bummed out that I couldn't play the new song on the radio. But you had your music played on the radio prior to this.
Yeah.
What's that like? I get asked a lot, or I used to, whatever. Is it still cool for bands to have their songs on the radio? And I know what my answer is. So, as a musician, to have your music heard on the radio, what kind of what does that do for you?
So first, I was totally bummed that I could not have the song on your show. That's in all sincerity, like it sounds silly, but like thinking through up to this release and everything, I was like, oh, I'm gonna hit up Popko, and he'll probably play my song. That would be really cool, So very bummed, but thankfully there were some other, DJs and whatnot around the area and outside the area that have been really receptive. And it's really neat because especially just as a creative person to have your work put out there and know that it's just being broadcast out to all these different people. That's neat in itself, but it's also nice to know, when you have someone that's not just kind of blowing smoke and being nice about your song, saying like, yeah, that's really good. It's good job, pal, or whatever the remarks might be. Like, yeah, that's a great song. Then just delete whatever, because if they're going to put it on the air, that means it has to have passed hopefully some type of standards that, at least in most cases. And so that's a nice thing too. But I'll say like every time it's been on the radio so far, I've listened. So it's exciting. It's cool.
It is. And that's kind of the answer that I've given. It's anyone can put their music on, Spotify, Apple Music, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I make a joke that, this silly podcast is on Spotify. So it's like
they let this on there. They let anything on.
It's easy. It's easy.
Yeah.
Right. But with the radio, it's like you got to send it in, or you have to know somebody, or like you said, someone has to have heard it and say, okay, this is decent enough to play, or like think it's amazing and want to share it with the listener. So I think, and everyone says, oh, radio and the digital age is dead, and I work in radio. I see what it can do, and it's not dead. Obviously, just like anything else, traditional media, it has taken its hit, but it'll always be free.
Yeah,
and it'll always still be in the car. So it's like it's still a powerful medium, and it's funny because I'm in advertising, so. People say, oh, that doesn't work. It's like, okay, well, how about if I put an ad on the radio that says you will be giving away $100 bills to the first 100 people that walk in your door on Saturday? Would you do it? And they're going to say no. You wouldn't do it because you're afraid.
Right.
You're afraid it's going to work.
People would listen to that.
Right. Well, people would hear it and say, okay, I'll walk in your door for $100, no big deal. So
yeah, it's true, man. I think, I mean, better than anybody, but I think the audience has, molded a little bit, transformed, and sort of the way that people listen to terrestrial radio is definitely different than it was 10 years ago, or even maybe 5, but there's definitely still an audience, and it's, I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's almost, I almost look at it like, I was talking to somebody the other day about, I think they were saying they were in a bowling league. They were sharing that with me. And I'm like, I really respect bowling. I'm terrible at it, but I really respect it because I feel like it's like a classic sport, bowling and, playing pool or billiards or whatever. Like, I feel like those are like lost sports that, they're really respectable. And they're these classic games that you just will never go away,
Yeah, it's, well, I mean, COVID has destroyed bowling. I don't know if you heard, but today they also shut down bowling alleys.
Absolutely.
How dare you? Show some respect.
Man. Yeah, the first thing I want to do when I get up tomorrow is go grab a bowling ball that somebody had in their hands yesterday.
When's the last time you went bowling?
Oh, my God. Last time I was at a bowling alley, or last time I actually went bowling? I think
the last time you went bowling.
Yeah, it's been years.
I'm good for like once a year. I used to do like the bowl for kids' sake every year.
That's cool.
So that was like my one time a year event.
Yeah.
And my arm would always be destroyed the next day.
Yeah. Well, if you're practicing it every day, but you're using muscles you don't even use on a normal basis,
Yeah, I don't use muscles ever.
Well, there's that too.
Foolish muscles.
But that's what I mean. It's like a lost sport, It's there's these guys rolling, out there with like a giant muscles in one arm or whatever because they bowl all the time, like
this is from bowling.
Sure. Right. Exactly.
This is my bowling arm.
Yeah, totally. Oh, God.
My brother is an excellent bowler. He actually, I think he was still in the league to this day, with the COVID or not. I don't know if that has, kept him from being in leagues, but he's bowled, I think, I want to say 300 games, which is if those who don't know, bowling 300 is like the best you can do. And I was like, if I bowl 300, I'm quitting that day. Like I'm done.
Full George Costanza. I'm out.
Yeah. If I'm golfing and hit a hole in one, done.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
out.
that's it.
Like it's just you don't get better than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's done it
tough.
like 3 or 4 times, I think. So
Wow.
yeah, I never had the hook. So like, he's got that nice sweeping hook that I think you have to have. Like I've always been a precision guy. I've been a pitcher. I was a really good shooter in basketball. I'm good at darts. So I was always I always do the ball straight, but I would do the straight like slightly to the right of the front pin or to the left, which always kind of fared well because it's kind of the same concept, kind of. But I mean, without having that curve, I think you're dead in the water
That's a skill. I think about trying to go execute that. Like I think about if I walked up to the lane right now and I tried to have that kind of like hook on it, I would fall right on my face. I just know that somehow my balance would be off. I'd be trying to throw the thing down there and I would just fall right on my face,
At this point in my life, I'd probably break my wrist.
Fragile.
Yeah.
Again, it goes to that old age thing.
I mean, I had some blood work done recently and my cholesterol came back not too hot. So it's like, shit, what do I do now?
Having that bacon every morning,
I don't eat bacon every morning. It's probably the beer. Probably beer's not good. So I don't know if I have to cut that out. So I was like, well, I can't stop tonight. I'm talking to Clyde.
That's right. It's all the little things. And you know what? A lot of people are saying during this whole COVID thing and everything, you get a pass. Like for now, showing up is okay, and I'm okay with that.
I wish I would have had a better. So I went for blood work for a different reason, but I also was supposed to get regular blood work done. So I'm like, yeah, do both at the same time. I'm here, right? And she's like, did you fast? I said, no. Did I have to? She's like, well, you're supposed to. I said, well, I got that ordered like probably well before the pandemic even hit. So I was like, I don't remember if they told me to or not. So like, I'm just here for this. So if you can't do that as well, then that's fine. Just we'll do it. I'll let them know that, you didn't fast prior to this. And I came back and my wife saw it. And she's like, that's not good. And I'm like, well, I did eat prior. She's like, oh, well, what'd you have? I said, well, I was good. I had a salad. I had iceberg lettuce. I had green olives, cucumbers, tomatoes. I think the worst thing that was on there was probably the blue cheese dressing. And she's like, oh. I'm like, what? I thought that was good, right? She's like, I actually wish that you had like McDonald's today prior to this blood work. I'm like, shit. Am I going to die? She's like, no, but you got to like take care of yourself. I'm like, yeah, I guess I should probably do that.
I think a lot about that. What kills me is like, I don't know. I just feel like over the last couple of months, I haven't had like enough fresh food around,
Really?
I feel like at least in every meal, I have to have something fresh. I try to, whether I like it or not, try to throw something in there,
Well, I wish I would have done the blood work prior to October and then blood work end of October, because as you know, I did sober October. So I wish I would have like kind of like seen the pros and cons of the drinking. So but I didn't. I should have done it. I didn't do it. I'll blame it on COVID-19 because here we are.
That's it.
But I mean, you're a father, and like that's kind of where my mindset is now too, because that's why I'm even more scared.
Yeah,
is because like I have this picture frame on my desk and it's digital, so it rotates through all these photos, right? And so I'll sit at my desk and like I'll just see photos of my family and of my son, and I'm like, oh my god, like I can't imagine, like what if I'm not, what if I die? I can't imagine not being here to see him grow up, and like I lost my father when I was 22, so like I would hate for him to go through life without having a father.
Yeah,
and it sucks to think about. That's what sucks about getting old. Is just things you have to think about, and what I wouldn't give to be 21 and just that carefree and say fuck it.
God. I feel like, I think about that sometimes. I feel like when I look back at like when I was 21 or even whatever age, and I'm like, I don't know if you get this feeling too, but I always feel like I've lived multiple lifetimes. I feel like I've done so many things in my life. It's so bizarre. Maybe I'm just nuts, but I just feel like if I look back in my life, I have these different eras
Well,
and
sure.
I've done different things. And it's
There's
just so
different
weird.
segments. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many jobs you've had, but I mean, you've been in different bands. So there's probably
Yep.
those segments of your life. Like
Yeah.
me, like I can go off of like, I was at my first, part-time job for 16, 5 or 6 years, and I was at the Weekender for 9 years. And I've been at Time Shamrock for 7. So like, I kind of live like, or I kind of look back in time and kind of segment them in those different areas. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I have like maybe 3 or 4 lives. So I know what
Yeah.
you're saying.
Yeah. It's kind of, it's weird, but it's kind of neat, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I don't know about your parents, but I mean, my parents, my mom's been working at the same place since she was like 14 years old, and
Yeah.
I think that generation, they got the job, they got, they worked there for 40 years, got the gold watch, and all right, we'll see you later.
Yep.
It's not like that these days.
It's not at all. I think that trajectory has really accelerated over the last couple of years too. Like we are, if you've heard of the term, the gig economy, like there are so many people just working multiple jobs nowadays. Like there might be one that, kind of just keeps them afloat and the other ones are to make sure they have the money to do the things they want. Or it might be 3 or 4 jobs just to keep afloat or whatever the case might be. I mean, especially we talk about today with so many people losing their jobs during the pandemic, so many musicians, artists, people in, the service industry, like they're just doing all these random things.
Yeah,
It's amazing for some people that they're able to. Not everybody is, but it's amazing that there are outlets out there,
it
and I think
is.
that's encouraging. You know?
I mean, I have so much respect for people. I feel badly that they have to have like 3 jobs to make ends meet, but I also have like a ton of respect that they'll do that because that's what it takes.
Yeah,
Because I think about like, God forbid I ever lost my job or got in that position where I had to do that. Like, I'm the type of person, I like to focus on one thing. I don't like to have like, if I had 2 jobs, I feel like I would be more into one of them, and then the second one would kind of just like go by the wayside.
yeah,
I like to be able to like, all right, this is my job, and I'm going to do it 110%, and that's all there is to it. Um, but like even just like managing those, like all right, because if it's 2 or 3 different gigs, it's probably not consistent hours, or maybe it is. Maybe
yeah,
it's certain days of the week at this time, and then they go to the next one. But like it's a lot of jogging, and then you add into like family and children. It's like,
yeah.
how do you do that? And I can't give enough credit to these parents these days that are like teaching their children. And I don't know how old you're.
2.5,
2.5.
Emma. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought she was older than that for some reason.
No. Well, yeah. 2 and what are we at now? 12, 2 and like 10 months.
Okay. I don't know why I thought she was older. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I consider myself lucky. My wife and I both work. We both have to work. Um, and I don't know what we would do if we had to, you know, school our child. I don't know
Yeah.
how people do it.
It's tough, man. I mean, I see people all over, people posting on social media about it. So, and it's, it's great when people can kind of make a joke out of it. But when you have to be fully attentive to something like your job, but then you have, a 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever year old, like maybe a school age child at home that really needs that focus and that attention to be able to help support them in their learning process. It's impossible. So I don't know
Yeah.
what I don't know what the outcome for these kids is going to be, if it's just going to be kind of like a blip in the radar, or, if there's going to be some type of something that comes from it. But it's interesting, man. It's a whole different generation.
Yeah. I hope nothing happens uh, to them over this. Cause I just, you know, not that before I had a child, like I didn't care about kids, but, obviously now that, I'm a father, it's like, I don't want anything bad to
Yeah.
happen to him and, you know, impact him in a negative manner. Um, but they're so innocent. Like they're so
Yeah.
innocent and they just kind of go with the flow. And it's just like, I just hope that this isn't going to affect them long term.
It's weird. Like I worry about, for my daughter, I worry about the socialization, and
Hmm.
it gets hard at certain points, like But I'll tell you, like, there are, when you talk about like they're so innocent, my daughter said the most beautiful thing to me the other night. She was I think I was putting her to bed, or maybe it was after she was done eating or something like that. But she just looks over to me and gave me a hug. She said, "Dad, you're my best friend." And I'm like, "Oh my God." I just like melted
Yeah.
instantly, you know?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I got to start writing my kid's stuff down because he'll be 3 at the end of this month. And he's just saying some like off the wall stuff that like makes me laugh hysterically.
That's awesome.
And it's just like, it's almost rapid fire now. I got to write it down because I just forget. But
That's
yeah,
great.
I mean, I my life went the way it did for certain reasons. My wife was in school for a long time. We wanted to make sure we were financially ready to have a child and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But I wish, we had him when I was 35. I had just turned 35, and I wish we would have done it sooner. Just because, like, I want to be that old dad, and I also like right now, if I bend over and try and get up, my knee hurts. I have high cholesterol. We just found out today. So I mean, it's all these
I don't know,
things that
man.
I
I
would have done
mean,
this earlier.
I think the same things. And like, so, I could have had a kid earlier or whatever, but, I don't know. I've had back pain since I was like 16 from carrying giant guitar
Sure.
amps around. So, who knows? But I also look at like, these dudes out there, they're like 60 years old and they're all ripped. And I'm like, I still have time. It's cool. I can make that happen.
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen? You're going to be 6 years old, and you're going to be like, you know what? I don't know how old you are. What are you, 40?
36.
You're younger than I am?
I
Jesus.
guess.
I don't know why I thought you were older.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's time has not been well to me, I guess,
No, it's not that at all. I see. So when I see like people in bands and musicians, I mean, I feel like when I watch college football, I feel like those kids who are like 18
Yeah.
are like older than I am.
Yeah.
So I just feel like these people who like, like you've been in bands forever.
Yeah.
When I first met you, you were in a band. So I saw
Yep.
you on stage. I just assumed that's just like my brain just assumed you were older than me.
I've been playing music in bars since I was like 13, 14 years old. So,
Jesus.
sneaking me in the back door to
Now I
play
feel
a set with a band,
now I feel really old.
That's all right. We're
Man.
both old. So,
Well, and you're wise too, Clyde. You're wise. And that's why I thought you're older too. You're very intelligent. You're the way you think through things, and I think I got that just from how we talked about what I was doing and the pointers you gave me, and it's also the way you and I think it goes to what you do with the recording studio. I don't want to say mentor, but maybe that's a word. I don't know if that's the word to use, but like you just kind of have this persona that kind of makes you seem older because like you're smart, you're wise, and you're kind of guiding, so to speak.
yeah. I thank you. I appreciate that. I think I think you're right. I mean, I think I definitely have that, but I don't know what attributes to that, but maybe it's the fact that I feel like I've had a lot of really good mentors myself. And that's invaluable.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe in, having a mentor, having someone that you can kind of go to for certain things, whatever that is, in all aspects of life, whether it's work related, personal, creative, whatever it is. So I don't know. I do believe there's a saying, and I think I don't know. I think it was like, to those whom much is given, much is expected. And I feel like I've been given a lot of opportunity, honestly. And the difference between, I think, certain people is those who take advantage of the opportunity and those who don't. But, you have that opportunity in front of you. Like, how do you harness it? How do you take advantage of it? And sometimes having a good mentor helps you be able to execute to your greatest potential, just kind of helps you see what your value is and kind of where you can show up different. So
Who would you say are some of those people who you saw as mentors?
I've had a number of mentors. I'll say there's from a work related standpoint, there's a woman named Linda Gerard that I go to often. She used to be my boss at one point, and I left her team, and I always think about like what would happen if I stayed and everything. But she's always still been there, even though I left, and she's been really helpful from a professional standpoint. I actually just lost a mentor of mine. Her name was Delia Sumrall, who passed away. She was a former professor of mine, and she was awesome because she would she was a professor. She was smart. She was she would help with everything academically, but she was so personable, and she was from down south, and she lived nearby me here actually, and I got to actually work for her as her graduate assistant. And she was like she was so personable. She welcomed everyone into her home. She actually had all of her students over at the end of the semester to come over for like a big cookout. And when you would go over there, she'd like, everything that was hers was yours. She was just so welcoming, and, everything she would teach through everything that she did. And that was super helpful. So those are more like on the, I guess, like professional and like academic life. From a music standpoint, man, I've had so many. I think early on, one of my early sort of, I guess, mentors and inspirations was my brother-in-law, Mike Savro, who plays in a band called the Crystal Skies, and he's been playing forever. And he's one of the people that, back in the day when I was 13, 14 years old, would be sneaking me into the back of the bar to come in and play music. And, it was awesome. It was like, to be like, a kid in high school that's like not even supposed to be in a place like that, and be able to get up on stage and play with a bunch of, guys that are a couple years older than you or whatever, like that was amazing, so that's, and he's always been a good person to go to for that stuff. But there's been so many people throughout the years,
Yeah, I hope you didn't take any offense to me thinking you were 40.
No, no offense. Yeah. How dare you think I'm more mature than I might actually be?
I just, you're well spoken. Like you're, like I said, like you're you got that vibe.
I appreciate it. I mean,
You don't look 40. I just felt like
thank you for clarifying.
Your life experience,
Yeah.
made you to 40.
That's awesome.
And that's probably true, though. I mean, like, who else is playing bars at 13 years old? I wasn't.
that's why, like, I go back to saying, like, I feel like I've lived many lives at this point. It's really bizarre, and it's almost like, I mentioned earlier in like the hypnagogic state, like when you kind of between like sleeping and awake or whatever, like I'll lay there and think about this, like, like if I'm in that state, like, am I really like, have I been on this earth like 36 years, or am I really like 300 years old in some ways? Am I reincarnate? And I'm remembering, I mean, I probably don't actually think those things, but
Right.
Sometimes when you daydream, you think like, I look back at certain periods of my life and I'm like, it seems like so long ago. Like it seems like so long ago that I was living with John Phillips, aka Guido.
I'm sorry. You lived with
Just,
that guy?
I know. Yeah, we lived together for a couple years. It
was like everything in the house like sticky from hairspray?
No.
Like, everything like
everything's sticky. Yeah.
I wonder if he used hairspray. Did he use hairspray?
If I remember correctly, he used gel. And
gel.
I don't know that he'll watch this, but I think it was like American Crew gel. And because I remember I used to steal it from him.
I will like tag him in this and like
to make sure he watches it.
Be very mysterious about how he was involved, and I'll make sure we'll get one view or one listen.
Exactly. It's worth it. Let's think of all the people who can mention to get a view. But honestly, like he was another person at that point in my life. He was a mentor, I really looked at him as that. I looked at him as a brother, and I still do. Like we don't talk the way we used to talk. And I honestly, I think I ran into him, at the Chamber of Commerce Gala, like earlier this year, late last year, whenever, I don't even know, seems like an eternity ago itself, but whenever that was for the Scranton Chamber of Commerce, I happened to be there for whatever reason, and he was there, and like, it was just so great running into him. And I feel like it was funny because I think it was just before that. It was sometime in the fall. I was out in Los Angeles, and he heard that I was heading out to LA. So he texted me. He's like, "Hey, I heard you're going to be in LA. We should meet up." And I'm like, "Well, when are you in LA?" He's like, "Well, I'm there this week." And I'm like, well, I'm there next week, but I live 20 miles away. So why don't we just get together? Like instead of having to go to LA to get together, like we live so close, It was just funny.
Yeah. He's doing well for himself too.
Yeah, he is. I'm happy for him.
It's funny. I feel like that band Hour After, like you guys, that whole unit, because you spent some time in that band.
Yep.
It's kind of doing very well for themselves as if you look at it individually.
Yeah.
which is good to see. It was cool.
Yeah, it's cool, man. Different era, you know. That time period was an amazing time period, I feel like, for music. At least I don't think it's just this area. I think it's just in general, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when were you in that band? Like 2006?
Yeah, around
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, I mean, that was I just joined the Weekender in 05. I was intern in 04. So like the early 2000s, no, mid to late 2000s for me were like the best years of my life.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that happened between 2005 and 2010 for me personally that were just like incredible.
Yeah.
Just the stuff that I did with bands, doing, travel with bands. Were you in the band hour after when they did that like small bus tour? It was
Yeah.
like
All around the
hour
country.
after lesson one.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was like 14 dudes in one van. That was
Yeah.
that. I was there.
Yeah. So there's that. But like, I mean, I wrote about lesson one. I did some traveling with them. I lived with some of those guys.
Yeah.
We did some bus trips to New York City, to CBGB's, which was awesome because that closed, like, I want to
Yeah.
say a few years after, maybe even sooner than that. I forget.
Yep.
But there's so many, like, the Weekender for me was such a like definitive part of my life that I'll never forget. I'll never regret. I mean, I will be thankful for those moments till the day I die. And it's funny because what I want to do, and I haven't told anyone else this, except for the people that I want to interview. I want to do as part of this podcast. I want to do like kind of like a "Where Are They Now"
Yeah.
interview series with like get Rachel Pugh and
Oh yeah.
all those people who like. I mean, because I think, and again, I'm so close to it in the years of 05 to I left in 2013, but from 05 to 07, 08, like there was this core group of us that were like we were there for an extended period of time because I mean the Weekender was always seen as this like stepping stone, like oh you work there for a year and you go on to the next thing. Well, we had this core of people that were just kind of like it
You
all
guys were like a
worked.
family.
Yeah, we were, and it's funny you say that because there's moments where we fought like family, like
Sure.
we were like
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, like and so I can't wait to kind of have them on because I want to like where we were at that moment of our lives is like a complete 180 from where we are now. Like we've got
Yeah.
kids, we were like in different careers almost sometimes some of us like so it's gonna be a lot of fun to kind of just go back in time and kind of relive those moments and I'm excited for that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it should
awesome.
be fun. So if anyone hears this and steals my idea, I will fucking kill you.
you gotta get them all scheduled first, at least.
Well, I mean, I'm announcing it now. So if it happens, I know you stole it. This is me announcing it. Don't do it.
I always say, man, that when you, or at least I was always told, like when you record it, it's copyrighted. So,
Try me.
That's it. It's here, documented, time-stamped, digitally.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there will probably be a few that I will not talk to.
Yeah.
Just drifted apart. It happens.
Estranged family members. That always happens.
Yeah. Those
that one uncle,
cousins you don't like.
Yeah. That was such a great time, though. It really was.
It was.
I look back at the time, and I find old photos from then. I used to love, like, I have a couple. I was fortunate enough to make it on like the cover of a couple of them with those, like for the Concert for a Cause thing, and those are some of my favorite covers. I've got like 2 or 3 of them and like saved somewhere. I remember doing one that when I was back in college. I don't remember if it was. I think I was an Hour After and the Collective at the same time for a period, and but I think I'm trying to remember when it actually was. Maybe 2005 this was, but I was actually over in England doing a study abroad, and I got the ask or whatever to do like a photo for the Concert for a Cause thing or whatever. So I was at Stonehenge, and I did a picture at Stonehenge. It was awesome. It was so cool.
Yeah, those were great shows too. I mean, there was so many moments that I will always remember. And that for me was a segment of my life that it feels like that was like one of my lives.
Yeah.
And I mean, it very well could have been because I did some damage to my liver, my body those years.
Well, I mean, everything's an experience,
Yeah.
and we take from it what we will.
I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that.
It's
If it
true.
wasn't for, I was an intern in 2004. My boss at the time was Christina Dugan. I think she goes by Christina Romanchik or something like that now. But married, children,
Yep.
or maybe one child. I don't really remember. But the editor at the time. No, I'm sorry, the GM at the time, Christy Greer. She's now Christy Greer Cerruti. Different career, married, kid. And of course Rachel Pugh.
Yeah.
So it's a long line of just like, and they were important people, I think, in the scene at that time. It really shaped, I think, the entertainment scene and the industry in this area. It just, I'll never forget those days. I met my wife at the weekend. I was taking care of the model of the week, and she was model of the week. And
I remember that. I remember. I think I was a model of the week at once.
you were man of the
Can you
week,
believe
yeah?
that?
Yeah, I believe it.
There's a lot of weeks, so
Oh yeah, 52 every year.
yeah, they got desperate at one point.
No, it's a shame what happened to that product. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's a plethora of reasons why. I mean, so I don't think it exists anymore. I think it stopped printing before the pandemic and was kind of online. It was really weird. Like,
Yeah.
it kind of updates stories here and there, but then the pandemic killed it. And I mean, they can probably use that as an excuse as to why it's never
Yeah.
going to come back. But there's so many things about that. Like, I look back, you can go on YouTube and look at videos. Like, when Mike Lello was there, we did weekender sessions. We were doing like on site, like acoustic things. Like, we
Yeah.
went with the guy from shit. Oh, what's his name? Strand of Oaks.
Oh yeah.
He did like 5 songs. We were on the dock of a house, or a dock on Harvey's Lake, and he did this incredible, like I said, 3 or 4 song show that we recorded. It was such a cool moment, and like I feel like that was like 2010, I want to say, maybe 2009. I feel like we were almost ahead of our time to an extent. Like, we were doing things and we had no support, no financial backing from the company itself. Like, we were just doing things because like this is where this is going to head.
Yeah.
And shame on them for not like seeing that, appreciating what we were doing, and really making the focus, because I think that thing could have lived online if done the right way. Maybe not to the success it had in print, prior
Yeah.
to Facebook and things like that, but I think it definitely could have had a place, and it's a shame that it's not
Yeah. It
really
is,
in
man. I
existence.
mean, the good thing is though, there was a period of time that you experienced, I experienced to some extent,
Yeah,
where Weekender was on top. The
yeah,
people involved were always there at all the events. Like, it was such a great time period.
it was. It really was.
Very
Never forget it.
nostalgic for that.
Yeah, that was one of my lives.
Yeah, same here,
Maybe
man.
2. Maybe 2.
Man, I'll never forget during that time period when I turned 21 when I was in the collective, and for like 6 months straight, it was my 21st birthday at all the shows. It's hilarious. Be
Oh,
like either Kermit or G would be like, "Hey, it's this guy's 21st birthday." Like, it's awesome.
it's funny because back then and even before then, like those like bands would party.
Yeah.
Like, bands would like. I remember some shows at Lesson One, and some of the members there just being
Oh
like
yeah.
out of their mind. I don't even mention names, but
Yeah.
I I had to drive one of them back home from Hiles. Uh, that's so
I
funny.
I one night, speaking of getting home from Hiles, Hiles was a great place actually, but
It's gone,
yeah, I
torn
know.
down.
That's insane. I almost thought when I saw it come up for sale, I was like, I would buy that. I don't know what I would do with it.
What do you
It's
do with it?
probably disgusting inside,
Yeah,
but what a cool place.
yeah.
Um, but I actually walked to now my wife when she was living with her parents in Scranton. I walked from Hiles. The two of us walked home the one night to her parents' house. She convinced me. She was like, it's like a mile. It's not that far. It was like 10 miles. Like, I don't know. It felt like 20. Like, it took us like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get there.
Oh, no.
But
that's funny.
Nuts.
How'd you meet your wife?
At school.
School?
Yeah. Met at school. And yeah, that was it, man. You know, I saw her on campus there. She actually worked at the library. And it's like, library chick, you know, that's cool.
I was gonna say, watch out for those quiet ones.
I know, right? But yeah, fun times.
Oh man. Well, we could probably talk all night about our younger years.
I know.
But
so
I know
many
that
of them being this old, you know.
I know you're like 40, so.
Oh God.
I just assumed you were older, just because you're so wise.
I feel old, you know.
I
Most days.
I thought that today was going to be my death day. The way everything gets misread through text, right?
Oh yeah.
So I said, make sure you go get blood work. I'm worried about the labs getting not shut down, but having to prioritize different things according to the COVID limitations and whatever. I'm like, I went yesterday. Actually, the doctor's office called me this morning. They said, this was a little high, and I said, oh yeah, 8, blah blah blah. And like, okay, well, we're not worried, but we just want to let you know. So I said, okay, cool. So she said, make sure you get that done. I said, yeah, I was there. They called me and said this, and she's like, let me look at your results. So I sent her the results. She's like, oh my God, this is high. This is too high. And she's like in the medical field. So she's overreacting. She's just like, we need to address this. And I'm like, am I going to fucking die?
Oh man.
Like,
I just gotta know. Am I going to die?
I got home today. I'm like, I feel like I'm a dead man walking right now. She's like, no, you just got to make sure you take care of yourself. I'm like, well, I guess I can't have beers tonight with Clyde. And she's like, no, you can. I'm like, okay, cool.
Oh, it's Clyde. Okay.
Yeah.
That's no biggie.
I said, okay, cool. Cause I'm going to anyways. I'm not going to fix my life tonight.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. Honestly though, everything in moderation, I feel like got to eat some fresh food. Got to exercise a little bit.
Well, Clyde, you know what? I had every intention of going to the gym tomorrow, but I can't now because COVID said I can't. I had every intention. Like tomorrow was going to be the start of my new life. I was going to go to the gym every day, and here we are. I can't do
Excuses. Where's that Bowflex? Whip that bad boy out. I mean, excuses. I'm about to say something. I realized I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, but I'll tell you what, man. Like last, I don't know when it was, sometime last year, I started going to the gym for a couple months, and I was going up through. It was probably like December, not that far into last year or whatever. But I was going to the gym for a couple months, going all the way through like March, whatever that was, like early March, mid-March, and I felt great. I was going to the gym, getting back in, like lifting weight that I lifted back in high school or whatever, feeling good. And all of a sudden this happened, and I'm like, oh, I can't go now,
No, can't get COVID.
And, it sucks, man.
I mean, you want to, but you just can't.
Yeah.
What it comes down to.
If it were just me, and I've had so many people ask me, about my stance or whatever, but like if it were just me, then I probably would, and certainly I'd be safe and, think of everybody else in mind and everything. But like, having a kid at home, having a wife or whatever, it's not just me. So can't really be.
It's funny too. Like, who would have thought a virus like this would have, I feel like we were already super divided as a nation.
Yeah.
And then like a virus came along that you can't even see. And I think it made it like 10 times worse because, you're being told don't leave your home, like stay 6 feet apart, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, that's what I'm worried about now, because I look back maybe even like 5 months ago to where like, if I was out somewhere, I wouldn't be as cautious of like, my distance between each other. Like, I mean, obviously I kind of respected their space, but it wasn't that big of a deal. But now I feel like I for instance, I was getting a coffee today at Dunkin', and I did the order ahead, and I walked in, and there was a woman and her daughter kind of standing next to the counter. and I was trying to see if the coffee that was on the counter was one of mine, but I didn't want to get too close. So I'm kind of like, I'm like,
yeah.
oh, is that mine? Yeah. And the woman's like, you can go ahead. Like, I'm like, okay. I didn't want to like, kind of
Invade your space or whatever.
cross any lines here. And I just want to respect you. And it's just really weird. It's just really weird now because I feel like, especially now, it's a mask when, all the time, and just making sure you keep your distance, and it's just strange.
It is strange. And I mean, for me, when I go out, it's I forget half the time.
Yeah.
And I want to do the right thing. I want to be as conservative as I need to be or whatever. But like, sometimes I just forget. Like, I get out of the car to go get my hair cut, and I'll just like walk up to the door and be like, hey guys, I'm like, oh, my mask is in the car.
Hey, Axel, get your fucking mask on.
Right? You're one of those guys,
Jesus.
Like, shit, totally forgot. So my wife is watching. I didn't actually do that. I just, I got out of the car. I didn't totally get out. But.
I got out of the car. He made out with the guy at the barber shop.
Right? Oh, God. I wasn't going there, but,
No, I was just saying to my wife the other day, we will see, like, we'll watch movies, and we'll say, like, oh, you can't do that today. And it's like shaking hands or giving someone a hug. Like, oh, can't do that.
I know. You take so many things for granted,
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big lessons learned. The good thing is, I think there are, to bring it full circle, I think there really are so many positive things that have and will come out of this. Whether we believe or whether we realize it right now or not.
Give me two.
Truly.
Give me two.
Give you two. I would
two.
not have put music out. I would not have started the Sleeplore Project if it weren't for this. I really wouldn't have.
Right.
The other is time with my family.
All right.
There's two.
Yeah.
I think those are huge.
See, I was when I asked you for two, I was thinking like post-COVID. Like what are the good outcomes that's going to happen like once hopefully this is all over? Like what do you see as like, all right, we went through a shitty time. It was a year of our lives that we didn't expect to be that long, but this came out of it, and we're going to be better as a human race moving forward because of this.
I think there's probably a ton of things. That's a pretty broad one. Two things that just kind of come immediate to me. I think that I hope that we move quicker towards like a digital currency type of scenario where there's less of a cash interaction.
Really? So are you a cashless society guy?
Not necessarily like I'm not like a cashless society weirdo or anything like that, but like I do think that we are so far behind other countries when it comes to that. Like even if you go to places, if you go to Africa, for example, it's all cashless. There are so many places.
Why do you want that for us?
Because I think it's easy. I think it's clean. I'm certainly not afraid of it or anything like that. Like I think some people are afraid of like, even something as simple as Apple Pay.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are afraid to do that because they might think that I don't know, maybe their identity gets stolen that way or something. And there's certainly always a case for cash. Don't get me wrong. It's always a case for that. But I think as a general way of transacting, I think cashless is fine. Totally fine.
Okay.
And I'm good.
It's interesting. That's interesting because, well, I mean, there's all this shit on social media that says like, oh, here's why, if we went cashless, like, there won't be the 15-year-old kid being able to cut grass for his allowance, or
hey Bobby, here's your Venmo. I mean, why not?
Yeah, no, I understand.
Or here's $15, whatever. Like that's what I mean. There's always going to be a case for it. There's always going to be a case in a place.
Or like, oh, you're trying to make ends meet, and you're doing these side jobs and just real quick money because you need to pay XYZ. Like, no, you can't do that because Clyde says we should be cashless, and now Clyde is the reason why Jimmy can't pay his electric bill.
But why?
Because he needs cash. I mean, he can't.
Do you pay your electric company in cash?
I don't.
That's what I mean. Like, people get hung up on these things.
That was the wrong example. What if I need to pay off my loan shark debts? And
well, you're dealing in a cash society at that point. I mean, I'm also a big fan of the barter system.
Tit for
bartering
tat.
for goods and services,
Okay.
you
All
know,
right.
but I'm also a bit of a collector of things. And, if you don't notice all the junk behind me and stuff, like I have a vintage microphone over here, guitar, a bunch of amps.
So what you're saying is like you would rather go back in time where they traded pelts for like
I
other
think it's all
things,
relevant.
right?
I think I don't know about trading pelts because I haven't had a use for one of those in a while, but every once in a while I'll take a trade on something. Like somebody needs help. Let's be real. Like most of the bands, that are out there writing music, trying to make a go of it and everything, they don't have all the money in the world, But there's some brilliant people out there who have all the heart in the world, and they want to make things happen. And the cash isn't always flowing for them or whatever, but maybe they have some piece of equipment around that they haven't used that they're totally willing to get rid of. Maybe Clyde will look at that and make him a deal. So that's all I'm saying.
That's the new host for Let's Make a Deal.
That's
I love it. I love it. All right, that's one. What's the second one? Cashless society. Clyde's all about getting rid of cash. No dirty money. Get rid of it. Get rid of the pennies. Get rid of the quarters. Get rid of the dollar bills.
Who uses that crap?
No one can do cocaine anymore. You got to use a straw. Oh, you can't use a straw because they got rid of straws too. So
that's right. Paper straw. Paper straw.
But then
what else? I think I don't know. I haven't put a lot of thought into this, but I think that I hope that coming out of this, I just hope that we are, because I think there's a lot of things happening at once. There's a convergence of many things happening at once. And I think you mentioned that before. I just hope that on the other side of this, we're able to sort of come together more and understand each other more, understand each other's unique preferences, and, kind of respect each other's boundaries and our own preferences on the other side of this, So I think a lot of that's kind of come to light.
Yeah. I mean, how have you had to tell family, for Thanksgiving and then obviously Christmas coming up?
Yeah.
That's like, hey, like we're not coming.
Yep.
We're not going to do
I have.
How has that gone? Because I mean, I feel like, and I'm not trying to paint your parents or in-laws in a bad way, but like family is obviously everything to me, and I'm sure it is to you too. But like my mom, for instance, like she's like, I don't care. I want to see my grandson, blah blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I mean, if it's if we're all safe and there's like a limited amount of people, like we'll talk about it, whatever. But like, I feel like they're like, not that they think it's not real, because that's not the case at all. Like my mom knows it's real, but it's just kind of like they're willing to risk it because they're older, they're aging, and they're like, we can go tomorrow almost,
And they love him so much. They just want to see him. They just want to be with him,
And unfortunately, like I live like 45 minutes from my mom, so it's like I don't see her every day.
Yeah.
But so it's difficult. Those conversations, I'm sure, are difficult amongst every family. And it's another thing that's just like a hard, difficult. I mean, I'm stressed out every day.
Yeah.
If it's not about, money, it's about, my kid's in daycare. So it's about him getting sick. Like my wife's parents are in their 70s. Like, if they get it, that could be a lot of trouble.
Absolutely.
My mom's not a spring chicken. She's 63, 64. It's like every day it's like, all right, maybe it's another day.
Yeah.
More are going to bring,
Good news is, I mean, I don't know. I probably won't be first in line, but I heard they approved the first batch of vaccines.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that this, I mean, I don't know. I'm hearing things that it might be next fall before like people like you and I would even have access, but I don't know. It makes me hopeful to know that
Clyde, I'm a podcaster now.
Oh, so sorry.
So maybe people like you might not.
Top of the list, Popko. Top of the list. Got to make those podcasts
on
happen.
Spotify now. So just so you know, I don't know if you knew that or not, but yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's and Apple and Stitcher. Yeah, I'm
links will be in the comments, folks. All the other
major platforms.
Yeah.
No, but you're right. It's not gonna end tomorrow.
It's not.
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful. Like it's definitely been hard. We've been doing socially distant visits and all that kind of stuff. And my parents, they totally do understand. They're respectful.
Yep.
And they're doing all the things they need to do and everything else. But it doesn't make it any easier, they still want to see us. They still want to see my daughter, and it's hard. And she wants to see them. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
She's gotten really good with the, socially distant hugs and kisses and all that kind of stuff. Like it's cute. Like when you say, like, she knows, like, give hugs and kisses, she'll just do kind of that or whatever, but
yeah, I think we're you and I are fortunate in that, like, our children aren't really, they don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
So, I'm hoping that we get out of this before they get smarter or more aware. But yeah, we're lucky right now.
I think a lot will be learned out of this. I really do. I think even from a business standpoint, we look at, like,
for sure,
large businesses, how they're operating.
I get, you think about New York City and, the way that the business was done, like, you went to work every day in a huge office building, and now it's like, we don't need you in this office building.
Yep.
And we don't need to rent this office building, this space, for thousands of dollars a month.
Yeah.
Like, we can do business. Like, so, I mean, does New York City bounce back? Do cities like that bounce back to what they were? If they do, it's going to take a long time, and I don't think it's going to be nearly what it was.
It's not. It's definitely not. It's going to be, I think there's going to be a huge commercial real estate, I don't know, a crash. I don't even know what it would be, but it's going to be a major shift in commercial real estate. But I think for individuals like you and I, that could open up a lot of opportunity for people, no longer do you have to worry about, I think back of, like, episodes of The Office where Jim's like, I going to get a promotion, but I have to move to Connecticut or whatever. And it's like, I mean, those episodes are very real because, like, for people who are, aspiring, they're young in their career and they're interested in kind of moving up the ladder. It's like, I have this opportunity, but I have to move 3 hours away. And, like, that could tear me away. And some people are okay with that. Some people aren't. I think it's going to level that out quite a bit for people, hopefully, at least in some industries, where it's going to be really challenging again is I think the large commercial real estate market, and also for small businesses. Dude. Man, as much as large businesses have been able to learn and adapt around this, small businesses, I don't know. I've seen some changes, but I wouldn't call it an adaptation or anything like that.
And we'll see with the large businesses, they have the resources, mainly money, to survive, months worth of losses, and then also money to, like, make the changes necessary to continue to do business as things, move forward, whether it's, online, sales or whatever that might be. But you look at the V Spot, for instance, it's like they can't, like, that business is built for entertainment.
Yeah.
They're not built for takeout food. They're not built for, 10% capacity indoor dining. Like, they are built to have bands on that stage, have people in that room listening, having beers, whatever it might be, socializing, everything like that. That's what that business is for. You take that away, that business does not move forward.
Yeah.
And it's like, they have to adapt. Well, how do they adapt? How? Their business is selling alcohol and providing entertainment, live entertainment. You don't just adapt. You don't just, like, well, you got to move with the flow. You got to roll with the punches. Like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah. I'm not that in tune with, like, our tax system or anything like that. I mean, to the level that you would need to be, but there's got to be a way. When you look at, people are still spending money today. People who can. People are spending money. They're spending it elsewhere. They're spending it at places like Walmart instead of the small hardware store down the road or the small shop down the road or whatever the case might be. So how can we take a look, at least during this period of time, to be able to make sure that these small businesses have the support they need, at least just to stay afloat? They don't have to be thriving, but they need to be able to pay the bills or, stop the rent, pause the rent, whatever the case might be, so that they can survive. And I know, I'm not necessarily saying I believe everybody should get a free handout or anything like that, but it's like there has to be some equitable way to look at this to be able to say that money that was spent before at these businesses is being spent somewhere else. So how can we take that and redirect some of that to be able to help some of these businesses stay afloat?
Right.
I don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be a way to do it.
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into this either because I'm not extremely knowledgeable in what I'm about to say, but I mean, I've been a big advocate for the legalization and taxation of marijuana
Sure.
for years.
Yep.
Because I think the tax money that we get from that, but I also like this state has always been, victim of corruption. And it's like, would the money still be allocated correctly? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's funny how, Wolf especially was, well, let's just wait and see what Colorado does. And let's wait and see what this state does, who are raking in millions and millions of dollars in tax money. And then all of a sudden this hits, right? The pandemic hits. And now he's off for like, let's push this forward faster because now it's going to benefit me.
Yeah.
And what I'm doing. And that just kind of irks me. Like I have friends that are and I'm not a big politics guy. So like,
yeah, me either.
I mean, people might.
I don't like any of them. I'll just make that clear right now. I don't like any of them.
People might hear me say this and be like, well, Popko, you're an idiot. And you know what we're talking about. And that's probably true. It probably is true. But I just, it just really bothers me because it could have been done. I think it could have been, pushed, because it's just weird how all of a sudden now it can be, let's talk about this more at length. And let's take a hard look at and see what we can do better. Like it takes a pandemic to do that. Like I'm tired of people in places and whether it's government or businesses, big or small, saying or waiting until they have to do something. Like why aren't you looking forward? Like why aren't you trying to plan ahead? Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe it's
not that I'm
opportunistic.
I mean, I'm not a trendsetter by any means, and so I shouldn't be speaking the way I am. But I also don't own a company. I don't have to look after X amount of employees, and low risk is low reward, right?
That's totally true. The fruit grows on the end of the limb, or whatever that saying is. Yeah. But totally get it.
Clyde. I think we got into a lot here tonight.
I think we did.
We did.
We're all over the map.
This is exactly, this is funny. This is the second episode. And I remember the first one, I was talking to Rob from Bowling for Soup, which was super cool.
Yeah.
And Ted from Don't Panic. I'm not sure if you ever had a chance to meet him or talk to him.
No.
Both great guys.
Awesome.
But like when I was recording it and we were talking or whatever, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted this to be. This is exactly where I wanted to be as this was kind of being built. And tonight this was the same. It just
awesome.
So thank you for doing this. Thank you for being a guest on the show. Thank you for your wisdom of a 40-year-old man.
Wisdom of a 40-year-old. That's great. I have to start using that in conversation now.
Yes, I have the wisdom of a
40-year-old man. Yeah. No, I appreciate you having me, man. I think what you're doing is awesome. Not just with the podcast, with the shirts, with everything you've done like up to this point is you've always had threads of awesomeness in there. But I think this podcast is cool. It's a lot of fun. I'm honored to be asked to do it, honestly, and glad to be able to kind of show up and have the kind of conversation you're hoping to have. I hope that people find it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, even if they don't, it's a good outlet for me, and I ultimately I hope, and that's why my kind of goal is to let's talk about the important things first. So if I lose an audience when we talk about politics or whatever we talk about, at least we got the important stuff with Sleeplore and your recording studio and all that kind of stuff. Let's get that stuff out of the way, because ultimately I want this to be a platform that people like you can see and use as an asset. But also it's a selfish thing for me to use it for my own what do you call it? Just value for for what I
Yeah.
want to do. And so thank you. It's like I said, both discussions have been everything I wanted them to be and more. So thanks for doing this. I wish you the best of luck with Sleeplore. However I can help in the future, please, by all means, reach out to me. You actually are the featured artist on my website, thepopkoproject.com.
Awesome.
I do have to update that so I can include your song and a link to that. But I have a call with Joey Z tomorrow evening. He's
Nice.
my
Joey
web
Z.
guy. You know him very well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's
Good
my
guy.
web guy. So shout out to Joey Z. He was one of those people. It's funny, and then real quick, I'll say one more thing before we leave. It's interesting the people who reached out to me when they heard of the radio show being put on hiatus. It was people that like I just didn't expect. Joey Z being one of them. He reached out to me, and Joey Z and I've known him for 15 years, maybe longer. I'd call us friends, but we're not. We don't talk every week or every month or whatever.
Sure.
I keep up to date with what he's doing on Facebook and through the band stuff and all that kind of stuff. But he reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, you know what? What you've done for me and countless others has been awesome." He's like, "Let me help you in any way that I can." And he said, "If you need help with whatever, let me know." And I was like, "Well, it's funny you should ask, because this is my plan." He's like, "Yep, I'm in. Let me know."
Awesome.
And he was in 100%. And it's everyone has been that way, but it was people that I just didn't expect. Like, I'm not. There's a few reasons I didn't want to name the show with my name in it, because I'm not. I just thought that was pretentious, and I don't think of myself as like I'm not an amazing radio host. I'm not this. I'm not Joe Rogan, although he's a giant inspiration for me. And if I could be the Joe Rogan of NEPA, that would be amazing for me. But whatever. But it's just been an amazing experience for me. I just don't want people to think that I think I'm bigger than I am, because I'm not. I question myself far too often. I have self-doubt every day about what I do. I've had people who I thought were friends reach out to me, or not reach out to me, just like comment or make snarky remarks, and it's like kind of allude to the fact that I think I'm something that I'm not, and I don't want to ever come across as that. So it's been a weird thing to navigate, trying to like kind of go out on my own, away from the radio station, and not be perceived as an asshole, because I don't want that, because I'm not that.
But my 2 cents on that whole thing, if it's worth it, if it's worth the 2 cents, is you spent the last couple of years building a brand. You really have. The alt native show is one thing, but just your name, Popko, and it's a cool name anyway. So why not use it? But you've spent the last couple of years building a brand, and I think it's smart. Tap into it. Well,
it's funny because I've said people smarter than me have told me that I needed to use it. You are one of those people. A wise man at 40 years old.
40 years of knowledge.
Told me that, hey, man, you got to keep the name. You.
For anybody tuning in now, I'm not actually 40, but
Clyde's 36. He's actually younger than me, which is weird. But no, it's funny because, I don't know. I haven't been John since I was like in middle school. Like I had 3 Johns in my class from kindergarten through 12th grade. So like come like middle school, we were all called by our last name. So I've been Popko since I was like 12.
Yeah.
I had a little stint there as Johnny Weekender for a few years,
wow.
but he was fun. He was fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of a drinking problem, but yeah, he was a good time.
That was that phase. That's all.
I was fitting in with the crowd, man. I just
it sure was
part of the party,
That's it.
But yeah, so I mean, end of the story. I'm thrilled with how the first episode came out. I can't thank you enough for doing this and being part of this. And I just feel like this is exactly what this should be. And I hope people enjoy it. And if they don't, that's okay too. If anything, I've wasted your time. I have not wasted my time.
Well, that's great. It honestly is. It goes back to that being genuine again. But you certainly haven't wasted my time. I appreciate the opportunity. It's always fun to catch up.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to the rest of the songs from Sleeplore. So again, if you need anything from me, if I can be of any help, please by all means reach out to me. Whether it's just a share, whether it's a follow, a like, whatever you need. I will always be here for you. I appreciate everything you've done for me. And I cannot wait to see what the future holds for both of us.
Awesome. Same here, man.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
You got it.
All right. I'll see you.
Bye-bye.